Hello and welcome to Spirit Sherpa, the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. I'm Joshua Rado, your co-host here as always with transformational shaman and spiritual coach, Kelle Spada. What's going on, Kelly? Round 2 of Mercury Retrograde, back after a month. We're back in the saddle again. We're like fucking Aerosmith. Let's rock this shit.
I see your coffee is kicked in. So
I'm actually off all caffeine now. I have not had coffee in a long time.
I'm having a moment of remembering the movie Encanto where the kid's like asking a million questions and she's like, and this is why coffee is for grown-ups, right?
I love health.
Oh, okay. So anyway, today we're going to talk about what do you do if you get stuck, right? And Josh and I were discussing this, and this is another suggestion from Elizabeth. Bless you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. You save us every time we don't have something to talk about. You are my favorite listener because you help the show go. So yeah, if you guys have ideas for episodes, please send them in. We are desperate for them all the time. I've been doing this for 8 freaking years. I need ideas. Okay, so.
And I'm in the middle of a snake shed. So my operating system is at, I don't know if that's an accurate level, but is the current level of bringing in things to talk about.
Yeah, you really don't want me asking ChatGPT for ideas. So, this is
when I saw this one on the list, it was like, what do you do when you're unstuck? Nothing. You do the exact same thing. Just do something. Always. And I was like, oh, this is the one I'm resisting. This is the one we should probably talk about. Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. We love you.
He's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. I'm like, yeah, but we're going to do it. He's like, I'm like, you even mentioned it in the last episode where you were saying you were having a difficult shed. And he's like, fuck. Okay.
That is how we process here.
This is how we do it. Yeah, that's us. Okay.
That is us.
Yeah, I actually sing that song on the massage table when my massage therapist is digging in really deep and I'm screaming in pain. And she's like, this is why we do it.
Transmutation.
Yeah, she's like, wow, you really have stamina. A lot of very much bigger guys and bigger muscles and whatever. They wimp out long before you do. And I'm like, yeah, well, I sing my pain and I cuss it out. But this is why I move, So, because I know what happens if I don't dig those out. So, yeah. So, okay, why do I have to tell the story now? I have no idea, but I have to tell the story now. It's unrelated, so just suck it up. So I used to be in pain every time I got off the massage table, and it's because I had really high inflammation levels, and I was like, I'm in so much pain getting off I would actually be in more pain getting off the table than I was when I got on it. And what I did was I increased the number of massages I was getting to 1 a week. And when I did that, it finally started breaking through the broken, the fascia and just everything that was getting stuck. So, the inflammation would stick everything in place when I was doing it every other week or every month. And when I got to the weekly level, it actually started to move things and I started to feel my body work better and all of these things. And so that and working on the inflammation itself, right? So I found that if I was super inflamed, I'd take a couple of Advil before I went to my massage and then they could get into the muscles and not be digging through the inflammation, right? So not that eating Advil on a regular basis is a good idea. It's not, but, sometimes we choose it for the right choice. And then addressing the underlying issues, which was, hey, I'm allergic to peppers. Didn't know that, right? Go figure. I'm inflamed all the time. I'm eating what I'm allergic to constantly, right? So yeah, that helped too. But yeah, in case you are going, I can't get a massage, I hurt more. Have more massages. That's all I'm saying. Okay, next. Back to the episode. I don't know why I had to tell that story, but somebody's going to write in and go, that was for me. So yeah, it'll be good. Okay. So getting stuck, what do we do when we get stuck? Well, and that was actually part of this, right? I was stuck in a physical space. I was stuck in an inflammatory space where my muscles would not release constantly and all of that. That actually is the same thing. Your answer was do more, right? And in the physical form, sometimes that works, right? But in the energetic and emotional, most of the time that doesn't work, right? Yeah, it's like, doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? Yeah. And Josh is like, screw you. And that was just me.
I don't say anything.
No,
Don't pick up on
you
my
said it. You
That was,
just loud.
that was an invasion of my telepathic thoughts. That's an
Your entire
unethical
body
invasion.
said it out loud. You should go back and watch the video, man, because your
I'm
whole
not-
body
I'm not
bonded.
going to do that at all. I feel called. All right, thank
Well,
you.
now
Thank
you
you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You absolutely should feel called out because I absolutely called you out on that one.
I think I'm absolutely blushing, and that doesn't happen often anymore.
Well, not with you and other people, but
Fair enough.
yes, I see it fairly often. But yeah, but that's me yob. That's one that paid me the big bucks, right, baby? Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so what do we do when we're stuck? Well, the first thing is you want to look at why you're stuck, right? So the stuckness comes from a place. So it comes from a resistance to movement, okay? Often disguised as a lack of clarity. And I say disguised because clarity is almost never the reason why you're stuck, okay? It's simply another form of resistance. And so if you can go into confusion and lack of clarity, you don't have to do anything, right? And so this is where we go with the Stuckville concept. And if you don't know what Stuckville is, go to the YouTube channel and look up Stuckville and Stuckville Funny, because Stuckville Funny will make you laugh your ass off. That's what happens when you put Kathy on screen and don't give her anything to do.
That is one of my favorite videos from all the classes.
She is a graduate of Second City Improv School. I knew that when we made the video like 15 years ago. Yet I said, no, we've been doing these videos together. You have to do it with me. She's like, but it's your story. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so no, just go watch it. Okay. It's called Stuckville Funny, right? And then if you want to really understand the concept at a deeper level, you can do the Stuckville Straight one. But the funny one is actually far more entertaining. Anyway, we get into Stuckville because we are stuck. And then we try to get out by doing more of the same thing, right? Your answer was actually pretty common for what people try and do. They're like, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do the same thing, but harder. It's like, no, that's not going to work, right? And there's a reason why in business there's a model that says work smarter, not harder, right? And it's because they understand this concept in business. And so the first thing you want to do is identify where your resistance is. What is it that you're afraid of? What is it that you're stuck in? Okay. If it's a lack of clarity, then the clarity piece becomes about choice, right? There's a choice that you don't want to make that causes you to go back into a lack of clarity. Oh, well, I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know. And, sometimes if you're changing into a completely different identity, right? Like I'm stepping into a new identity right now. I am literally casting about in the darkness, trying to understand what the new identity looks like. Okay. That's not lack of clarity as a resistance. That is orientation, right? I am orienting to a new way of being, right? And so that's the differentiator, right? Between lack of clarity as a resistance and lack of clarity as orientation, right? It's like you're already stepping into the new thing, not you're trying to choose the new thing. You're already stepping into the new thing and you're lacking clarity because you're orienting to the new way of being. Those are different.
Did you just see me go completely blank as I was
did.
lack of clarity? No, I knew you caught that shit. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
like,
so this class is
damn.
between me and Josh, and you guys are watching, okay? And so when you are going into a lack of clarity before you make a choice, it's because you're resisting making the choice. Deep down, you really know what the choice is. And you're just going, la, la, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't know what it is. No. I got to pick something else. La, la. I don't know what that is, so I don't have to choose it. That's where the lack of clarity thing comes in, right? Or the resistance is in stepping into your power, right? So I see this a lot in business when I work with spiritual business owners and regular business owners. And what it is, I don't know what thing to offer. I'm confused about my offer. And it's not that you're confused about your offer. It's that you've abdicated your power to the people who are buying or not buying from you. Right? And you're like, "Oh, I don't know if it's what they want." Right? That's the abdication of your power. So, tell me what you want and I will give it to you. Right? It's that sort of parent-child energy where the client is the parent. And energetically, that's out of balance and isn't going to work, right? Instead of saying, okay, my marketing isn't bringing me the people I want, therefore I need to tweak my marketing. You go, and they don't like it. I got to pick something else. And you do the panic pivot, right? So that's another way in which lack of clarity comes into play in business, right? And so, all of this stuff, and the same thing with employees and everything else too. And in case you guys haven't figured it out, I'm actually doing a lot of work with business owners these days. And Josh knows that we've launched a new program called Multidimensional Success that's specifically for business owners. It's Welcome to the Woo plus business plus a spiritual business consultation. And you get the whole thing together in a single package. And it's like supercharged for business, right?
It is supercharged.
Yeah. It's hardcore badass, right? And so, that is how you get stuck in this lack of clarity thing as a stuckness, right? Now, lack of clarity isn't the only stuckness that we end up in. There are many more places where we can get stuck, but it is probably the most common one that I see is I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, right? And, sometimes the answer is, well, go get somebody to help you, right? See a therapist, come take a class with me, whatever, right? And sometimes it's I don't know what to do. Well, I kind of do, I need to break up with my boyfriend or, quit the job I hate or, whatever, right? Leave the toxic friend group, but then you're like, but then I won't have a job or I won't have friends or I won't have a boyfriend or whatever, right? It's like, yes, temporarily. And then you will find another one, right? And then you will hopefully find a more healthy one because you made a choice out of the unhealthy environment and you will choose into hopefully a more healthy environment by having done the work associated with that, right? And so, or you will have the help you need if you did a therapist or, take a class or whatever thing. And that's the other thing that we do is that we settle. Okay. When you get into stuckness, you will often try and settle because you want a resolution immediately. And so I see this in a variety of ways. So you settle for the person who kind of sort of loves you the way you want, but not fully, right? Or you settle for the job that pays you well but treats you mediocrely, which is better than the one that treated you like crap and paid you mediocrely, right? So it's a step up, but still a settle, right? Or you take the cheap class rather than the more expensive one because you didn't want to make the commitment at a higher level. And, if you take the cheaper class, then you can cheese out on the work, right? It's a subtle thing, right? Because it's like, oh, the cheaper class, then if I don't get everything out of it, it's okay because I didn't spend that much on it, right? It is a subtle, right? And so these are the sorts of things is like, you can do the high end one that might scare you a little, or, you do the cheap one that it'll take you half a step instead of 50 steps, right? It's a settle, right? There's a lot of ways in which we settle. And, and this is also in self-care, right? So, a lot of us think of self-care as, push, take yourself out to a nice dinner, get a massage, take a bubble bath, buy yourself a nice thing, right? That's not self-care. That's self-soothing. There's a difference. That's sticking a lollipop in the mouth of the inner child who's screaming because you've overdone him. And that's not self-care. Self-care is getting enough sleep, eating right, taking your supplements to make sure you get sufficient nutrition, getting outside, having downtime, being present, right? All of these things, that's actually self-care. Saying no to the things that make your body go, what? Right? All of these things are self-care, not self-soothing, right? So make sure that, and we settle for self-soothing, right? So a lot of the times that you're stuck, it's because you're stuck in a space where you're not willing to let go of the old pattern enough, and you're going to settle, and you're resisting settling. Right? So then the answer there is stop settling. Right? Go for what you really want and make a commitment to not going for less than that. Right? Super important. Right? So being stuck is an internal process. Now, on a very rare occasion, will you be quote unquote stuck waiting for the universe to catch up? Okay. And that isn't about being stuck. That's about lacking patience. Right? Josh is like, talking to me again.
I'm pushing that. No, I'm pushing that one back at you. I was waiting for my moment.
I am always talking to myself, man. I am always talking.
I know.
Every fucking word out of my mouth is talking to myself. That's Kathy said for years she wants to run a podcast called Taking My Own Advice, where she does a reading for somebody and then turns it around on herself and says, okay, why do I need to know that, right?
She absolutely should, by the way. That would be fantastic. I've
told her she's welcome to come on here and do it as a segment. So, when she's got the time, she'll get to it. But so, this is what we look at. And so sometimes it's about being patient and waiting for the universe to catch up, which, for those of us who run a mile a minute, the universe does.
Scorpios. Yes. Where's our Scorpios out there? Me and Kelly were talking about that the other day in chat. I was like, I love being a Scorpio and your lessons patience. Isn't it just the best? Isn't it just our favorite of all of the universal lessons? Yeah. The answer is
no. What is that?
Yeah, I was like, I think, I even struggle with being stuck. I was like, am I just supposed to really, love this lesson because I'm so grateful for it? The answer is no. I don't feel that way internally. I honor it for what it's trying to teach me, but do I enjoy it? Not in the fucking least sometimes.
Yeah, me neither. So, yeah, the whole thing. And so, when you're being taught patience, you're also being taught trust in the universe. And that's the hardest part, is to be able to be like, okay, it hasn't shown up yet. Yet being the operative term. I am waiting patiently for the universe to provide because I know it will. And I'm taking the slowness as the sign that I need to slow down, be still, be present, and relax in between spurts of doing, right? And, those of us who are impatient, we learned this pattern because our doingness created our value in our childhood. Right? We had to do better, be perfect, be whatever, right? And we learned that pattern and that our value is based on our doingness. And so you got to break that pattern because your value is not based on your doingness. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And if you are never still, you are your doingness because you have no beingness, right? And so you are training the world to see your value as you're doing this. And so, finding that space in between allows you to lean into your beingness because it is you, the inherent energy of you that the people around you value. That's why they spend time with you. Not because of what you do for them, but because of how you make them feel. Right? And there's we talk about that Venn diagram where the intersection of the two energy fields creates the container of the relationship. I talked about this on a podcast the other day. Not here on somebody else's podcast. I can't remember the name of it. Independent Minds, maybe? Yeah. And the interesting thing about the intersection of the two energy fields is that is the container that holds the relationship. And that container has an energy to it. And when you really vibe with somebody, you know what that energy is because you come into their field and you're like, wow, yum, 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 right? I have a couple of people in my life right now who are like that, right? Where I'm just like, wee, this is fun, right? And because your energies vibe and they amplify each other, right? But that energy, not that energy, but an energy exists in every overlapping energy fields, okay? In all overlapping energy fields. There is an energy that is the energy of the relationship. And so, people talk about when they make massive changes to the relationship, oftentimes, and this happens when people are growing too. Oftentimes there will be one person or both people change because they're growing and it changes the intersection. And now they have to renegotiate the relationship. They have reestablished the relationship because the energy of the relationship has shifted, right? And so all of these things go into play when we are dealing with the stuckness, right? It's like we don't want to change the energy of the relationships that are around us. So we don't want to make our decision to grow. We don't want to shift our relationship with our job because we don't want to grow. If we grow, then if we shift the relationship with the job, if I step into this next level of empowerment, I can't be a corporate drone anymore, right? Sometimes these things are what we're resisting. So you really need to find what the underlying resistance is because you're never stuck for no reason. There is always a reason. And so we get, there's a lesson in one of the classes, I think it's in Woo Squared, but the lesson of, you can focus on the obstacle or you can focus on the goal, but whichever one you focus on is where you're going to end up. If you've got your nose right up against the boulder of the resistance of the stuckness, if your nose on the boulder, you're not going to see any way around that boulder because your nose is on it, right? But if you back up a few paces and look at it objectively and like, okay, why is this boulder in my path? And do I even really need to deal with this boulder? Is this boulder actually in my way? Or is my goal way the hell over there, away from the boulder, and I just got attached to the boulder so I wouldn't have to keep walking towards the goal, But what is it?
You just think the boost.
Say more.
I don't want to. No, like as you were talking, I was thinking about my manifestations earlier this year and how I manifested a boulder to get in the middle of it. That was kind of taking me off. I won't say that it took me off course. It actually lined up with some of the shadow work we were doing in Woo You. And that was something that I think was necessary to get me to a certain point. But now I have definitely overinvested in the motherfucking boulder. And, it's fleeting though, right? It's fleeting. It's like, we've been talking about the shedding and, the death of the former self and the identity shifting and the stuckness. And it's like, you have to realize that there's whenever you're letting go of certain parts of your ego, or like we've talked about before, expanding that box, it's going to want to shrink or it's going to want to come back in and it's going to want to hold you in that pattern. And that's that. It's like egoic purgatory. It's a shit show. You know what I mean? And, and that's, you just become more aware of it and it lessens over time. Right. And, so that's what I was thinking. Saying all of that. I was like, oh, that's the answer again. And I was like, that's also Woo Squared, I think. We were just talking about foundation.
Yep.
Counter lessons to revisit.
I'm sorry. There's a lot to know. Yeah.
You're not sorry. You're not sorry. There wasn't an actual genuine sorry in.
No. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And this manifests on a larger scale too, right? Because and in some cases clarity is relevant in terms of choosing what you actually want. So one of the things I'm seeing right now is, the No Kings movement in the US is pretty significant. But it's also pretty disparate. It's unclear. It's everybody showing up saying no to all of the Trump policies and all of the ICE agent stuff and all of that. But there's no clarity about what the yes is. right? There's no solid movement in the other direction. They haven't organized enough to actually be a real movement yet. And that's the challenge, right? And so that is an evolutionary process. This is a classic issue of what happens in people who are in toxic environments, right? So, they have created a toxic environment in the US, the people being dragged out of their cars and street and things like that. That's about as classically toxic as it gets. And at the same time, so you're sitting there and you're going, I don't want this. I don't want this. But they didn't want what came before it either. Right? The status quo was better than this, but it wasn't good. Right? The people being bankrupted without health care and, all of this stuff, right? So there was a lot of places where it wasn't good already. So they're not trying to go back to what used to be, but they haven't defined where they want to go forward to. And you're starting to see that defined. And that's why Mamdani did so well in New York, is because he defined where he wanted to go, right? And so this is the thing, is that you have to define where you want to go if you want to make real change. You can't just rally against the thing you don't want, because the more you fight against the thing you don't want, the more you give it power, right? So you want to make a decision to move in a different direction. And so, whether it's on a political scale at that level or whether it's on a personal scale, you have to define where you want to go. And you have to know where that is going to take you. And, this is another piece of the lack of clarity. It's like, well, I don't know what it looks like. And you just stop at, I don't know what it looks like. And you throw your hands up and you go, well, okay. Instead of making an active choice to go out and figure out what it looks like, try on different things, go do some research, see if somebody else has an idea, see, crowdsource your answer, right? This is where the great wide web of way too much information is helpful, in the fact that maybe somebody else has done this research already and you can piggyback off of that. And maybe they haven't, but you can go out and get a bunch of disparate information and then start to synthesize it yourself, right? Especially if you're a doer and the universe is letting you do, sometimes the research is actually super useful for keeping your doing self busy, right? So, but you need a path that you want to follow. And this is why I said in the last episode that I was seeking out a purpose, right? Because that purpose is the thing that's been sort of sitting there. And I have been in resistance on it. I've been stuck on it for a decade now, and that's not exactly true. That's not true. I was in the, I'm going to be doing this just for me, and I'm going to be having fun, and, I'll be taking it easy. And that was me learning how to take things easy and still not doing it. Yeah. That's where the stuck was. Learning how to take things easy and still not doing it. Yeah. I knew I was stuck somewhere. Just wasn't that. Yeah. So, I'll call myself out here too, man. I'm an equal opportunity call outer. So
Yes. So one thing we love about Kelly is she has no problem calling herself on her own shit.
yeah, well, if I didn't have my own shit, I wouldn't be doing my work. And if I'm doing my work, you should not listen to a fucking word I say.
I mean, like all the programs are basically her shit. And the evolution therefrom.
And the evolution thereof, yes. So, yeah, so it's as you're going through the process, if you're trying to up-level to a completely new way of being, look for other people who may have gone before. Or look for the flaws in the underlying assumptive logic of what you believe to be true, right? Like, everybody has to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That is an inherently flawed statement. Think of it from a physical reality perspective and you will understand how flawed it is, because you are standing in your boots and trying to pick yourself up. Stupid fucking concept, right? That is just ridiculous. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's like, are you shit? No, right? The idea that the poorest of us are fighting against each other for the scraps rather than turning on the people who are holding all the power and all the money, that makes no sense, right? That's a flawed logic. These are the things you want to look for, the flawed logic. And this is a problem. This is one of the reasons why critical thinking has been taken out of schools in the last 40 years. And so, you have to learn how to do critical thinking. So if you don't know how to find the flawed logic in your own arguments, go look at, I promise you there are courses online for free on this topic. Harvard and many other universities have online courses available for free to the public on different topics. I promise you, if you search for something on critical thinking, you will find one. Okay. And everyone should take a class on critical thinking if you have not already taken it. And if you haven't taken it in 40 years, you probably should take it again, right? Because when you do, the whole world starts to look like a bag of shit, right? Because you're like, wait a minute, you said these two things together and they make no sense together, right? Because you start to critically think about things. You start to actually question the things that are being told to you rather than just letting them come in. And that's one of the reasons why social media is so dangerous, is that it actually creates the doom scroll puts you into a fugue state, which just allows things to enter into your consciousness without critical thought. And that's problematic because then you're being programmed, right? So I make a point of, when I start to take something in and go, oh, well, that's very interesting. And I start to take it in. I go, nope, go research it. Go look it up. Make sure it's true, right? Because if I don't do that, then I get programmed too, just like anybody else, right? So you have to do that. So, this has kind of gone far afield from how do you get unstuck, but it's all related, right? Because critical thinking is a crucial part of any unsticking process. You have to be able to look at the patterns in your life. You have to be able to look at your emotions underneath. You have to be able to question your assumptions. You have to be able to question the things that are going on around you. You have to be willing to look at what you're afraid of. You have to be willing to look at all of these things in order to make progress in your life. And so, while I have gone from the micro to the macro and back again, it's all a continuum. It's all the same thing, right? And so when you really get the foundation of this concept, you will see it everywhere. And then it becomes much more dynamic of a understanding in your world of how things work. This is, me, this is how I work, right? I teach the foundations, I teach the structures so that you can then, it's like a chef learning how to mix flavors and everything else. And then you can create whatever menu you want rather than having to cook by recipe. Same idea, right? It's the same concept for personal growth work, because personal growth work is the exact same thing as community change and things like that. They're just variations of scale, right? And so, this is why it's so important to learn this stuff, is because you understand how culture works, whether it's corporate culture or community culture or national culture or world culture. You start to understand how these things work because, it just is a macrocosm of your microcosm, right? So there you go. I think that wrapped it up nicely. What do you think?
I think so too. I was just going to say, if you're feeling stuck, do the exact same thing or not. Do everything that Kelle just listed in this episode.
Yes. Yeah. So, this would be the moment to remind you to please like, subscribe, and share, especially on YouTube. Please, please, please help us get to more listeners on YouTube. We really need that help. We're going to be, we're going to cut that out because I have no idea what the hell I was going to say. Anyway, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Yep. And remember, what you focus on expands, what you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.